is in that way that we know that we can do hard things. I'm going to invite us to access our chalice that we have nearby, and we can light that together to welcome one another to this time of community and to our service. As Unitarian Universalists, we are called to do the hard work of justice. And so we remind one another today that yes, we can do hard things. We can do hard things together.
Because this campaign is paying homage to the old and the new, we think about the then and the now of a movement. We're bridging the gap between 1968 and 2018, which is 50 years of just revolution and 50 years of activism. So we also incorporated a new part that incorporates hip-hop, a little hip-hop aspect to it. So to bring the old with the new. So when we get to that, we'll teach you how the words flow and go.
So your words are first, everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. Because everybody has a right to live. You got that?
Got that.
All right.
And so then the second part will be everybody's got a right to live, and then you all will say to live. And then everybody's got a right to love.
To love.
Everybody's got a right to dream. To dream. Everybody's got a right to learn. To learn. Got it? All right. There we go.
Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. To live. Everybody's got a right to dream. To dream. Everybody's got a right to love. To love. Everybody's got a right to learn. To learn. Everybody's got a right to live. To live. Everybody's got a right to do. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live.
This is a time in our service when we have the opportunity to share our bounties with each other. Since we are not physically together to pass the basket, we can do so virtually by texting 73256, putting UUFNN in the message box and hit send. Then follow the instructions to provide your offering. You can also mail a check to our office at 780 Del Monte Lane, Reno, Nevada, 89511. But the slickest and cleanest way to donate is to sign up for automatic giving. Contact the office and Carol will send you an automatic draft authorization form, or you could pull it off of our website. Share the play this month is the Verdi Posse. You will have to do your donation for them in a separate form. This religious community exists by its mission, as a fire exists by burning. But a fire cannot burn without fuel. And it is the time, the energy, the imagination, the vision, the creativity, the compassion, the love, and the financial support of the members and friends of this community that fuels our mission to nurture and sustain a welcoming, inclusive, diverse, liberal religious community that transforms lives and serves the world. Your support, the free and generous support of each and every member and friend of this community, is what fuels this community and its mission. And without your support, the flame of justice, community, and love cannot burn brightly to warm ourselves and to be a beacon in a world threatened by division and fear. It is at this time we see the real strength of our fellowship. So many of our members have pulled together in some amazing ways, and all the volunteers who are doing so much to keep us all in touch with one another. We really do care about each other. Thank you, everyone who has stepped forward to make sure our fellowship is financially secure. In these uncertain times, we are aware there are some that cannot make their commitment because of the current situation. So we urge those that can to please contribute beyond your pledge. I'm feeling positive that all of us stepping up, we will be stronger than ever. Thank you for taking care of our beloved community. Now let the offering begin. Would you all please join me in the dedication of our offerings to the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy. We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lily Egan. I'm co-chair of the Stewardship Committee this year. First, I wanted to give you an update on where we stand right now. We're exactly halfway through our month-long stewardship campaign for the coming fiscal year. So as of now, as of last night, we'd received 70 pledges for a total of $197,000, which is a good start. It means that approximately 52% of the people who pledged last year have already pledged this year. That's number of people, not necessarily specific people. And we're 59% of our $335,000 goal. So looking out at all of you here today with us on Zoom, I do get the strong feeling that you all enjoy and value everything that UUFNN offers now. And you're probably expecting and hoping that we'll expand our horizons way beyond what we're doing now once this pandemic is almost contained. And that is exactly what we hope and intend to do. But I want to share a couple of things that you might not know. So first, we've heard from so many of you about how delighted you are with the Zoom option and how well everything is going. So you might be interested to learn that right now, the board, the finance committee, and Reverend Karen are looking into how we can continue to offer our Sunday services and other programs remotely. but still interactively once we've gone back to our in-person format. So this will be very challenging technologically, of course, and it will also be costly to achieve, but we really feel it's worth it. It's worth whatever is required of us to be able to reach out to as many people as possible, regardless of their physical location, their health status, or any other personal circumstances that might limit their ability to come to us in person every week. So second, although long-term members and friends are quite aware of this, I believe it might surprise some of you who are newer to the fellowship to learn that our only source of funding, our only source, is the generosity of each and every one of you here. In fact, not only do we not receive any financial support from our umbrella organization, UUA, but we actually contribute to them somewhere around $20,000 to $25,000 a year. Regardless of how much we bring in, we contribute to them because they help us in other ways. So again, as a board member and a member of the stewardship committee, I urge you to take a few minutes right now and just think about what you value most about UUFNN, how it serves you and enhances your life. And then please pledge whatever you can comfortably afford. If you get your pledges in sooner rather than later, and again, our campaign is over by March 15th in order for the Finance Committee and Board to put together a budget, which will start with the next fiscal year. Again, if you get them in sooner, you'll spare us having to follow up with you with phone calls and emails. So please stay safe, stay well, stay strong, stay happy, and get vaccinated as soon as you can. Thank you.
Poem by Minister Elizabeth Stevens. Oh, my dear ones, I know you were hoping for once and done, for an earthquake, a tidal wave, hoping that if we gave it our all, a single push would be enough, that after this, we could sink back into compliancy, back into the comfort of our privileges. I confess, in the secret corners of my heart, I wanted to believe it could be that easy. That justice would emerge from an egg, fully grown, not with down and weak wings. But beloved, we're chipping away at a mountain, not a boulder. Calcified structure created to oppress, control, kill. Thousands of years of this stupid idea that some are more worthy. Some deserve power by virtue of who they are, what they look like, which tribe they claim. Erosion is slow to work, sweethearts. Celebrate the progress, the triumph. Celebrate also the heartbreaking almost. Breathe, rest for a time, then get up and turn again towards kindness, towards your neighbor in need, towards those that are still trapped in the stone. Tell them, I will not give up. Tell them, I am with you. Tell them, for you, I will learn to eat rocks. For you, I will keep chewing, keep grinding until the mountain crumbles to dust.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for its soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for its soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned. Circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for its soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole.
Circle round for freedom, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Last week, we began a conversation about racial reckoning, and we continue that today. And you can think of it like concentric circles. Last week, we talked mostly about the national conversation. Today, I want to talk a little bit about our region, Northern Nevada. And then in 2 weeks, as the concentric circles come inward, we will look at our own UUFNN community in this regard, continuing that conversation. You know, across the country, we are dismantling Confederate statues. And I find that to be such a powerful, concrete symbol of the big picture of the work that we're trying to do. We're taking down those statues piece by piece. In some communities, they're covering them and tying them over with tarps until they can take them down, but they're being taken out with cranes and with much machinery and taking away. And I find that concrete, very tangible example to think about those statues going away. What a powerful symbol of the work that we are doing in the big picture of dismantling the systems of racism, systemic racism, and also doing that work piece by piece in communities and organizations and internally. So I just invite us to hold that image of the work and the time and the very physical, monumental labor that it takes to remove those statues, and hold on to that as what it looks like and feels like to do the internal work, the systemic work, the organizational work of dismantling what has been such a centuries-long pandemic since the beginning of our country. Last week, we had Deputy Chief Oliver Miller of the Reno Police Department speak at our forum. And our police department is doing some things from recommendations of the Gwen report, which was done a few years ago, to upgrade and update their practices to weed out racism in their policies. And I'm proud of these conversations that we're having. I'm proud of the relationship that we have with our local police department. It is a relationship that lets them know that we are watching, and it is a relationship where we want to continue to keep their feet to the fire, that we want a police department in our community that dismantles racism and that builds relationships, positive relationships, particularly with minority communities, and does not police with racial profiling and the use of violence. And so I'm proud of that work that we were doing, and I call upon us to continue that conversation, all of us, continue to ask the hard questions of them and keep their feet to the fire, to prevent violence by police, and to create and continue the kind of policing that we want to see in our community. As we look at the history of where racist threads come from in our community, I wanted to talk a little bit today about Marge Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood. Maybe you have seen and heard that it's been coming to light recently that unfortunately her motivation and tactics were not all that they seemed to be, as she was very involved in eugenics, which is the genetic science of trying to engineer and preserve a pure and exclusively white race. There's a movement afoot to take any memorials or recognitions to her out of the Smithsonian and other museums and public venues, as well as out of Planned Parenthood itself. And so I encourage us to explore and engage in that effort. And the reason that I bring her up today in this conversation is that our local leadership of the NAACP contends that her philosophies of social and emotional education are the path and the map for education in our Washoe County school system. Now, I am just beginning to learn about this and explore it. And if you know more about this as an educator, I invite you into conversation with me to help enlighten me. And let's be on this journey together to learn more about what this means in our community and its ramifications. Last week, I spoke to you about a conversation between Brene Brown and Austin Channing Brown, who's the author of I'm Still Here, and where Austin Channing Brown spoke of a despair for a fear that tomorrow will be just like today, that nothing will change. White folk have only just begun to feel exhausted folks of color have been exhausted since the beginning of this country. And so I hang on to that phrase because I think it's so powerful that so many live with a fear that tomorrow will be just like today. And the reason that fear exists is because we want to hang on to our comfort. The very definition of privilege is hanging on to comfort. Beloveds, the best chance that we have for change is an understanding of what white supremacy is and how to dismantle it. It is everywhere. It is so ingrained in our culture. It is visible. It is present, just like those statues. And so piece by piece, we must work to dismantle it. And awareness is the very best place to start. So I'm going to go through with you today some of the characteristics of white supremacy culture as they exist in society and in organizations, and they're used as norms and standards without even realizing it. And they're damaging because they promote white supremacy thinking. They're damaging to both people of color and to white people. And so I'm going to give you just a brief description of these recognized characteristics of what white supremacy looks like, acts like, how it's so ingrained in our culture. Going through the list is a little bit tedious, so I'm just going to ask you to bear with because this is very important. And I'm going to give you a little bit of homework at the end of talking through these. So stay with me because this is some really important work. I'm just going to give you a top line description of the 14 or so characteristics of white supremacy culture. The first is perfectionism. And what that means is that little appreciation is expressed among people for the work that others are doing. The credit usually goes to those who gets credit anyway. Under perfectionism, unfortunately, it's more common to point out either how people or the work is inadequate. And really the antidote for that is developing a culture of appreciation. Another one is a sense of urgency. It's a sense of urgency that makes it difficult to take the time to be inclusive and to encourage democratic or thoughtful decision-making. Sense of urgency is quick to emphasize highly visible results and deadlines. The antidote is realistic work plans where the leadership understands that sometimes take longer than anybody expects when we have good process. Another is defensiveness, where the organizational structure is set up and a lot of energy is spent trying to protect the way things are done and have always been done. An antidote is understanding that structure cannot in and of itself facilitate or prevent conflict or abuse, and understanding the link between defensiveness and fear. Another one is quantity over quality, where lots of resources are directed toward producing measurable goals. And if it cannot be measured, it's not highly valued. It's a numbers game where so much emphasis is on numbers. Another one is worship of the written word. If it's not in a memo, it doesn't exist. If it's not in the minutes, it didn't happen. It doesn't take into account all the ways that information gets shared and all the communications that happen. Another white supremacist philosophy is there's only one right way. The belief that once folks get introduced to the right way, they'll see the light and adopt it. Next is paternalism. Decision-making is clear to those with power and unclear to those who don't have power. Those with power think they're capable of making decisions for everyone's best interest. And the antidote is to make sure that everyone knows and understands how decisions are made and every voice is heard. Next is either or thinking. We've talked a lot about this over the years. Things are either or, good or bad, right or wrong, with us or against us. And the antidote to that is both and thinking. Things are rarely really either or. Most things are to some degree of both and. So it's shifting the thinking to both and knowing that there are almost always more options than the ones that meet the eye. Another is power hoarding, little if any value in sharing power and being collaborative. Another is fear of open conflict. Folks in power are scared of conflict and try to ignore it or avoid it or run from it. Another is individualism, where there's not much comfort in working as part of a team, but folks are silos and manage things very individually. Another is the emphasis on progress is all about more and more and more, bigger, better. Another interesting one is objectivity, the belief that there is such a thing as being objective. The belief that emotions are destructive and they don't play a role in decision-making or group process. And finally, and this is an important one, the belief that we have a right to comfort. The belief that those in power have a right to emotional and psychological comfort. Scapegoating those who cause discomfort. The belief of a right to comfort is the very definition of privilege again. And the antidote is understanding that discomfort is at the root of all growth and learning. I'm going to say that again. Discomfort is at the root of all growth and learning. How many of us can think of a time when we really grew and transformed and took a step forward when we were comfortable? There's a measure of discomfort that is required and necessary. And so, beloveds, this is our work, to look at these characteristics of white supremacy, to be aware of them, to watch where they happen, to pay attention, and to endeavor to start to shift our modes of operation into something different that stretches us, that calls us to courage rather than comfort. And so I'm going to invite you for your homework for over the next couple of weeks and ongoing to search for this online. Search for the characteristics of white supremacist culture. It's really easy to find. It will come up on numerous websites. And continue to read them and increase your awareness of them. You'll find a little bit more information because I'm just trying to give us a top line overview. And I want you to start to look at how these play out nationally in our Northern Nevada community and here at UUFNN. And in 2 weeks, we're going to look more deeply at UUFNN in this regard. And I invite you to come and courageously be part of that service on March 14th. Beloveds, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we do the hard work. This is where we live out in our covenant. This is where we're willing to be uncomfortable in order to grow, to move forward, to ask forgiveness, to begin again, to transform. It's what transformation is about. And I look forward to being uncomfortable with you, to doing this work with you, alongside you, in service of our growth and transformation into who we can become as community. Comfort to courage, beloveds. Blessed be. We enter into these moments of our time of community meditation and prayer. Spirit of life, spirit of love, ground of our being. We give thanks today for this amazing community, for willingness to do the hard work to bring about a better world. We give thanks for determination, for courage. We give thanks for new awareness and knowledge. We give thanks for opportunities to make new beginnings. We offer our energies of love today to all of those who are suffering from COVID and every illness, to all of those who are grieving from losses and unexpected changes. We hold in our hearts those who are lonely, those who are experiencing fear and trauma, those in addiction, those struggling day by day for recovery. Because we are community, we gather together, our celebrations, our sorrows, our fears, our joys. And you're invited to take these few moments and record those in the chat box. We gather all of our joys and concerns, those that we're able to speak and those that we hold in such deep places that there are no words. And we gather them all into the heart of love. And in our community, it has become somewhat of a tradition that we offer our gesture to one another. One hand on the heart, one hand held up to each other as our way of saying, I see you, I hear you. We are all in this together. Amen. Nancy Oakley has a few words for us this morning from our leadership development team.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm Nancy Oakley. I'm here to speak as a representative of the Leadership Development Committee. This committee, which is made up of Elizabeth Hutchison, Mary Gail Morris, Kathleen Maloney, and I, is purposed with creating a slate of officers and committee members to be voted on at the annual meeting. We're tasked with filling the vacancies of the Board of Trustees, including the president-elect, the treasurer, the secretary, and the trustees. And we're responsible for also recruiting for the committees of the congregation, which are the Legacy Committee, the Committee on Shared Ministry, and the Leadership Development Committee. Our fellowship depends on each of us to do the jobs to keep it functioning and flourishing. And we know that active participation in the life of our congregation gives us an acknowledged stake in it, empowering us to make this community our true spiritual home by infusing it with our values. Committees might seem to be kind of removed from the message of this morning's service, but I heard Karen call us out to do the hard work together, that we can do this. We can face these issues that plague our community. And the communities really are that place that we practice what we preach, kind of behind the scenes, but we have this work that when we work on these projects, we are inputting our local values. And this is the opportunity to test our Unitarian Universalist values and put them into place. But we also know that our congregation works best when these positions are filled with people who find this service to be meaningful to you. And so we have begun to have conversations to learn more about you, your stories, why you come to UUFN, your views on service, either at UUFN or in our greater community. We've had some amazing conversations with people already. We've learned amazing stories. We've learned about the gifts that you have, the talents that you have, where you want to place them, even if it's not in one of the committees I mentioned. We want to have those conversations with you because once again, we want you to be doing something that is meaningful and works for you as well as works for the congregation. So we would like to ask each of you to think about these positions within UUFNN and contact us if you would like to explore opportunities to serve. We'd love to have a conversation with you about any of these positions I mentioned, but if you're thinking of something in another area, we'd like to have that conversation as well. We know there's so many ways to participate and be service to our beloved UUFNN. And so I'm asking you to think about any of these, think about where you want to be within our congregation, and contact us. Our information will be put into the chat box as to how you can contact us. And we'd love to talk to you anytime that you're willing and available to do that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy, and the leadership development team. We want to thank you so much for joining us for our service today. Thank you for your presence here week after week. I do just have a couple of final closing announcements. There is a special program this afternoon from the Living Legacy Project that is part of our racial justice programming at 2:30. And that today is Dr. Shirley Cherry, retired tour director at the Dexter Parsonage Museum, where Martin Luther King Jr. lived with his family in Atlanta. That will be a fascinating program, and the information is in our emails. I want to invite you to watch your emails for all of our programming and connection opportunities. We are looking to plan an in-person event, much like the ones that we did in the fall, in about 2 weeks, probably on March 13th. We're working to put that together now, and you can watch your emails so that we can be together outside and visit and have some community time together. And beloved, I wanted to speak to you briefly from my heart to yours. I wanted to reiterate what Lily said about our pledge campaign. In general, we're in a fairly stable financial position, but we do need to plan for the next fiscal year and the hope of coming back together in person. And your stewardship team and your board are working so hard to make plans for that. And the real critical piece of your fellow community members being able to do that is having the pledges in so that we know where we stand. So thank you so much for your generosity. Thank you for all of those who have done that already. If you haven't, if you could do that in the next few days, just as soon as possible, that is just a huge help as we move toward our goal and begin making the plans that we need to make as communities. So thank you for your time and attention to that. I also wanted to let you know that next week's service will take a moment out of time to recognize and honor the fact that we have been at this COVID thing for a year. We are going to acknowledge that and look at some ways of moving forward. And I want you to know that there's going to be a very special surprise guest at next week's service that you will not believe. And you just have to come on to see what that is. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Come and participate in that service. You will not want to miss it. Please do stay on for some informal conversations for coffee hour. And let's close our service by joining together with Emma's Revolution in Our People Gonna Rise.
Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise.
Our people gonna rise. Listen to our cries through the pain and lies. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna sing.
Our people gonna sing.
Our people gonna sing. In spite of everything, hear our freedom ring. Our people gonna sing. Our people gonna fight. Our people gonna fight for what we know is right. We march into the night. Our people gonna fight. Our people gonna grieve. Our people gonna grieve. Our people gonna grieve. whatever you believe, we have the right to breathe. Our people gonna breathe. Our people gonna pray. Our people gonna pray. Our people gonna pray. Take our rights away, see you on election day. Our people gonna pray. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Listen to our cries through the pain and lies. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise. Our people gonna rise.
Beloveds, as a symbol of our connection, we put our hands in our windows for our final blessing. Indeed, our people going to rise, our people going to sing, our people going to change the world as we move from comfort to courage and we join our efforts, our work, our energies, our love together. Blessed be, amen, and namaste.